Welcome to Unconventional Success, where we are rewriting the rules for female solopreneurs. I'm your host, Tiffany Dawson, a business and mindset coach. I help women who value freedom to earn the income they need to facilitate the lifestyle they want. I'll share interviews with successful female founders and my own tips on how to build a bulletproof mindset, make your own rules for your reality, and think strategically about your business so you can earn free-flowing revenue while spending quality time with your family. Remember, you can do life and business in a totally unconventional way and be wildly successful at the same time. The only person you need permission from is you. Hello and welcome to another episode of Unconventional Success. I am really excited to have our specialist on today. This is Helen Walker, and she's a visibility strategist who's going to give us all of the tips and tricks and tools and mindsets around being more visible, selling with confidence, and showing up as our best selves when it comes to serving our clients. Hello, Helen. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me.
My absolute pleasure. We've been chatting over the last month, I guess. We met at Denise Duffield-Thomas's event, didn't we?
We did, yeah. What an event. It was brilliant.
It was amazing. I think I've talked about that event so many times on this podcast already, but honestly, it's just so nice to be in a physical room with other women who are doing amazing things. Did you get that as well?
Oh God, yeah. I came away with like a whole book full of notes, but I was just buzzing, just like this newfound, oh my God, like next year's going to be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was in November, and I think that was just such a nice time I feel like that's when people start to get a little bit dreary and start to lose a bit of energy and motivation. So that was like a really nice thing to have done at that time. But we are all here today to listen to your expert advice on being more visible. But before we dive in, can you tell us in a bit more detail what you do, who you help, and how you do it?
Yeah. So I predominantly help women, pretty much female coaches. But to be honest, the advice that I give, if you're a business owner, it kind of applies to you. But the reason I focus mostly on coaches is obviously I'm a coach, and I'm a woman, but I know how hard it is when you're starting out, when you've got a lot of hang-ups and you've got a lot of self-doubt, and you might not like the way you look or you sound, how hard it is when somebody goes, you just need to be more visible, just show up and just talk about stuff. And you go, yeah, but that feels really scary. And what do I talk about? And oh my God, no. So I shied away from it for years. You know, I didn't really promote my business. So I know how hard it is. And that's why I suppose I gravitate to helping those people, because that was once me. But yeah, I just show people how to be more visible. Now, most people kind of know what they need to do, but they don't do it because they're scared and they've got a load of hang-ups and they worry about what people might think. So a lot of what I do is, teach the strategy of this is how you be more visible. But 95% of what I do is mindset and just changing those beliefs and building people's self-esteem, building people's confidence so that they can go, do you know what? I'm pretty good at what I do and I'm going to go and tell the world.
Yeah. And that's something I talk about a lot as well. And that's why we're so aligned and why I wanted to get you on this podcast. Mindset is so much of the work. Like, I think a lot of business owners get so stuck into, okay, what's the strategy? What are the 5 steps I need to take? Or what's this like email funnel sequence that I can copy from this expert that will get me all these sales? But if you don't have the mindset in place, if you're not behaving in a way or believing in yourself in a way that someone who's confident in their product or service is going to behave like, then that's really going to come across no matter how good your strategy is.
Oh, completely. And this is what I always say to the people who join my mastermind is, you're going to learn the strategy. And and I could type it all out for you. I could type scripts out for you. I could tell you exactly what to say. But if you don't believe in yourself and believe that you can help these people achieve their goals and do whatever it is they want to do, it's not going to work. No strategy is going to work, because being visible, really all it is about building relationships with people and building that trust. And if you are coming across, you could do a video every day, but if you don't believe in what you are selling or you can help them, subconsciously your audience will pick that up and they'll go, but she doesn't even believe it herself. So why am I going to invest, not just money, but my time as well in this person, because I don't believe she can get me results? So, mindset is everything. It was a game changer for me. Completely, not only changed my business, but changed my life. It is that big. I think people underestimate how your own thoughts and the story that you tell yourself, how it is going to massively impact how you show up.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's exactly what I experienced when I first started my business as well. So I don't know if you know this, but the first iteration of my business was leadership coaching for women in male dominated workplaces. So I used to be an engineer and I rose up into leadership levels, and I had to do all this mindset work to get there because I was a minority, I was very young, and I was leading all these 60-year-old men and telling them what to do every day. And I was like, oh, who am I? So I really had to build up my confidence in that way. So when I first started my business, I was like, great, I've done this before, I can teach women to be confident. But what was also going on behind the scenes was that this was the first time I'd started my business. Yes, I'd learned to build my confidence up in another field, but starting a business, my confidence was rock bottom. So I kind of felt like I had to hide that and pretend I was more confident than I was, but I wasn't really. So I guess if you were to go back and give that past version of myself, and I only give that example because I know there will be so many people listening who feel exactly the same thing, feeling like they have to pretend to be more confident than they are. What do you do? Where do you start?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when I started my business, that's exactly how I felt. And I'd worked
Really?
oh my gosh, yeah. I'd worked in sales when I first started my business. I've had my business for about 10 years. When I first started my business, I'd always worked in sales for 13, 14, probably 15 years. So when I started my business, I had this mindset of, oh, I won't struggle to sell, because I was always, at the top of the leaderboard for how many sales I'd made, and I won trips and, big bonuses and all that. So I was like, oh yeah, I can sell. Selling yourself and your own business is completely different. So when it came to like opening the doors of my business, I was a bit like, oh, I'm not selling a company's product or service now. I'm basically saying, come and work with me, and I'm the best thing since sliced bread. That is incredibly hard, because, especially in the UK, we're told not to show off and blow our own trumpets, and, nobody likes to show off. So we've got all this mental baggage and this mental story that tells us, and particularly as women, to keep small. If a woman is assertive, she gets branded a bitch and all these horrible words. So society has told us, just keep quiet and just, sit in your box and not shout about it, which is the opposite of when you start a business, of what you've got to do. So first of all, I'd just say to everybody, it is normal. It is totally normal to feel like this. And confidence, like you say, you got confident in one area, but then starting your business, you're like, oh, I don't feel too confident, which is good news, because confidence is just a skill. And we forget that confidence is a skill. And it's like learning a language. You've just got to practice it. And the more you practice, the better you get. And eventually you become fluent. But with confidence and running a business and sales, I think we have this idea that we should be good at it from day one. And nobody's good at it from day one. Natural born salesperson. There is no such thing as a natural born salesperson. I was terrible when I first started sales. I was awful. I remember my first sales call. It was diabolical. You've just got to practice. And there is no, I wish I could I wish there was an answer to like how to be more confident. I wish I could bottle it up and say, here you go, because I'd be extremely rich. But the only antidote to, you know, lack of confidence and fear and all that kind of stuff is actually do the thing that you're really scared of. You know, it's like you, when you talk about your other experience of you weren't confident leading those people. It was you went and you did it and you pushed yourself and you did it again. And that's the same with your business and selling and being visible. Like the first time I did a video to promote my business, it was awful. It was I wish I'd still got it now to prove to people, because people now, I love doing video, and you know, I love doing stuff like this. It's my favorite thing to do. But before, you know, I was terrified, and I just kind of sit like rigid. I'd be like, hello, my name's Helen, and today I'm going to talk about this. And yeah, it was boring, and it was not many people watched. But I thank those days, because if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't feel confident doing stuff. Like now we're doing this talk, you know, I haven't maybe I shouldn't say this, haven't really prepared, or, you know, haven't thought about it too much. I've kind of just made myself a cup of tea, sat down and gone, well, let's just have a chat. Because that is my approach to these things, is just to be, you know, as natural as you possibly can. But eventually you do more of these things and you feel more confident.
Yeah. And I guess, like, you say you haven't prepared and you haven't specifically written down notes to have this conversation, but I guess unknowingly you've been preparing for this conversation for years. You've been talking to customers every day. You've been, you know, talking about the topics of your expertise to your audience on Instagram, on your podcast, to other people, presenting at other people's masterminds. Like, you have been preparing, but it's just that now you're so experienced, you don't have to sit down and write notes for a specific conversation like this. And I think that's something that we really need to remind people, especially those who are starting off. You might watch us here on this podcast. Maybe you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or whatever. You're listening to two people having a very ad hoc conversation, yet giving out loads of really great tips and being able to phrase things in very well-worded ways. But we've been practicing for years.
Yeah. I remember my first podcast interview. And luckily, she said, I'm just going to have to turn the cameras off because of like bandwidth or something. And I was like, thank the Lord, because I'd like scripted out my answers. It felt as if like this was the best first podcast I could have ever had, because she was like, here's the questions I'm going to ask you, just to so you can prepare and stuff. And I literally wrote out the answers. She turned off her computer, so I picked up my notepad and I was just reading. You know, I was just trying to make it as conversational as I possibly could. And that is how I used to prepare for podcasts, would write out the answers. And when I did my own podcast, I would write out a whole script. So a podcast that now takes me maybe 20 minutes to record would take me like a whole day, because I'd be scripting it, I'd be proofreading it, I'd be practicing it. I'd do one version and go, that's no good, I'd scrap it, I'd do it again. When now I've realised actually part of my charm, if you like, or my appeal, is that everything's first take. You know, I don't worry too much about what I look like. I don't worry about getting things wrong. I say the wrong thing all the time. I waffle, I go off on a tangent, I forget what I'm talking about. But that's almost become my superpower, where people have gone, oh my God, she's normal. I want to work with her because she's normal. When I was all polished and scripted and practiced everything, I wasn't human, because nobody's like that in real life. And I always say to people, when you're talking on camera or at an event, on a stage or whatever, podcast, just think that you're talking to one person. Don't think you're talking to the whole of the internet, because that's going to freak anybody out. So I think think of a friend, and I just think I'm talking to that one person. And I talk to them like I would if I was down the pub with them, having a glass of wine. How would I talk? Well, yeah, sometimes I forget my words. Sometimes I say and ah. Sometimes I pause to think about what I'm talking about. Sometimes I forget what I'm saying. But that's what makes us human. And all these traits that we try and get rid of are actually the traits that make people warm to you, relate to you, see themselves in you, and want to work with you. So I think, well, actually, just be you. Be more of you, the imperfect version of you. And it makes life so much easier. And you can work less hours because you're not having to script everything and practice everything 500 times.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can so relate to that. My first ever episode of this podcast, when it used to be called How to Be a STEMinist. So I was working with women in STEM, science, tech, engineering, maths.
I like that.
Yeah, it was a good name actually. I re-recorded that first episode 3 times. And yeah, it took me all day. And that's the thing. Like now, same as you, I can jump on and just maybe write like a headline topic of, okay, I want people to get this out of this episode, and I'll just talk for 20 minutes. But that came with years and years of practice. So I
Yeah.
guess like if you're listening to this and you're just starting out and you're like, oh, how could I ever do that? Or I sound like I'm fumbling over my words. Maybe you will need to sound like you're fumbling over your words for the first, I don't know, however many times, but with practice you'll feel more comfortable, you'll feel more confident, and you'll sound better after some practice, like anything else.
I
I want to go back to
sorry.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I would say to people, like, be honest. If you're on a live and you're nervous, just go, oh my God, I'm really nervous. Because people will go, oh my God, they'll root for you. They'll be like, come on. And, they're not going to go, oh my God, that's so unprofessional or whatever. So just be honest. I think it's the best way.
That is such a great tip. Yeah, like actually show that you're a human, be a bit vulnerable and say, oh, yeah, I this is the first time I've done this, or I'm a bit nervous. And I think that is quite radical advice, because the old school presenting advice is like, never apologize, show them who's boss, take full control of the room. But actually these days, especially depending on what your expertise is, but I'd say these days there's so much video content, there's so much of these, so many online workshops, there are people doing things for the first time. So what's the harm in telling people you're a little bit nervous?
And I think people want more realness. I think people are sick of seeing airbrush stuff and curated stuff and, everything being perfect. I think people are just craving, people want to feel normal. And I'm not blaming Instagram because I think social media. I think social media is brilliant, but you can go on things like Instagram and you can come off it going, "Oh my God, my life is just so rubbish, and I'm so terrible, and I'm this and I'm that," and it's not true. What you're seeing, a lot of it is not true, and I think people are now going, "We're a bit sick of that. We're a bit sick of going on social media and coming off and feeling rubbish. We want to see real people. We want to know that we are normal." And we're allowed to be however we are. So I think it's quite refreshing now that people are just going, do you know what? I'm just going to show up as me and I'm going to be apologetic about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can hear the voice of people listening going, okay, well, that's all well and good, but how do I practically do this without sounding like I'm showing off? Because I don't know how to talk about how good my product and service is without sounding like I'm really blowing my own trumpet.
So this used to be me. Like what you've just described there, I'm like nodding along going, yes, that is exactly what I used to think. And I didn't show up. I didn't talk about my stuff. I used to skirt around it, thinking, oh my God, I hope people just know that I'm offering this thing. And then what I did was, I have this exercise and I call it the spotlight exercise. So anytime that I feel myself thinking, oh God, I'm showing off and what they're going to think, I'm putting the spotlight on me and I'm making it all about me. And what we need to do is turn that spotlight off of us and go, do you know what? It's not about us. We are almost just the vehicle delivering the solution. So let's take it off us and let's put it on to our audience, to our ideal client, our typical client, and go, what do they need? What is it that they need right now? And when you operate from this kind of place of You think about your ideal client, and I always get all my clients do ideal client work to go, who is this person? What are they struggling with right now? When they get up in the morning, how do they feel? When they go to bed, what's keeping them up at night? So you know what their problem is, and you know that you have a solution. So while ever the spotlight's on you and you're worrying about how you feel, that poor person is sat there going, I've still got my problem. I'm still feeling like this. What's the ripple effect of that problem? My clients, they're probably a bit hacked off because their business is not where they want to be, and they're probably shouting at the kids and falling out with their husband and annoyed that they don't have the money in the pocket that they want, and they're feeling a bit resentful. And there's a massive ripple effect, not from not just showing up. So think about what's happening in the life of your ideal client, and then go, well, it's not about me, and put the spotlight onto them and go, well, what do they need? Well, they need a solution. Right, so if I don't go and talk about my program or my course or whatever it is, I'm leaving them in pain. And that for me has been a real game changer. So anytime I've gone, I don't feel like it today, well, it's not about me. It's about my audience. There's going to be somebody out there, even if it's just a how-to video or whatever. They're going to take that away and their life is going to be better. And that's if I can just help one person, and that's enough. But as soon as you stop making it about you, and this is hard, it takes practice, but you've just got to keep telling yourself, it's not about me, it's not about me, and just putting it onto your audience, what they need. I found that makes me show up because I still get nerves, I still get jittery, even though I teach this stuff. I am human. We can't control how we feel. If nerves come, they come. But that's how I get over them.
Yeah, and I love that because that's such a practical piece of advice that people can action straight away. And it's about moving the intention. So instead of going on video and the intention unknowingly being, oh, how can I protect myself? How can I make sure I don't look like a fool? Or how can I make sure people don't think I'm showing off?
Yeah.
It's actually turning the intention around. So it's, how can I serve? How can I help these people with this problem? I've got something valuable that's going to help them. I've got knowledge, or I've learned something that would be really helpful to them. How can I help them? So it's kind of turning the intention from protecting yourself to serving others.
Exactly.
And that's really similar to a tool that I used to teach when I was talking a lot about how to overcome imposter syndrome, which I called flip the focus. And it's exactly the same. So instead of thinking about all the disadvantages to yourself in any one moment, so if you're presenting and you're feeling nervous and you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this because I might look like a fool and I'll sweat and my face will go red. That's all thinking about the threat to yourself. So in that moment, if you want like an immediate confident boost, you can flip the focus from yourself onto the audience and say, okay, but how can I help them? What can I say that'll help them? Doesn't matter so much if I go red in the face, that's fine. At least I'm giving them something that'll be helpful.
Absolutely. And the thing is, all of these reactions that we have, feeling nervous, face going red and feeling dizzy and all these things, it's a sign that your mind is working really normally. Like that's how it should work. Because it's your survival instinct kicking in of going, do you really want to be exposing yourself for, all the things that could go wrong? And then we get a choice to go, well, it's just the survival part of my brain going, should you do this? It's not saying you shouldn't, it's just saying, should you? Like an alarm going off. It doesn't always mean that your car's getting pinched. It just means look out the window and make sure it's still there. You don't have to react to it. It's just it's like a pause button to go, have I planned enough? Did I do my slides? Have I done whatever I need to do? But the thing is, we believe, we've kind of almost like programmed ourselves to believe that voice. So it's just a someone tapping you on the shoulder and going, are you prepared? Have you done, is this the right thing to do? But we now take that tap on the shoulder as, I'm useless and I'm rubbish and I'm not very good. And it doesn't mean any of that, but because we've like hypnotized ourselves to believe that voice. And it's not a voice of truth. It's just a voice of, let's just pause. Let's just check. Should we do this? So it's normal to have that feeling. And actually, what we see, other people don't see. The amount of times that I've gone, oh, I hate this about myself. People go, I've never noticed that. Or I hate it when I move my hands around a lot. People go, never really noticed it. I'm like, what do you mean? I always do it. And they go, oh, I've not really noticed it. People don't notice you in the detail that you do because actually they're too busy worrying about their own hang-ups, and their own worries and what they're going to have for tea and how the kids are. And, they're so preoccupied with their own life. They're not actually picking up on all of your faults. You are, because you're only focusing on you.
And that's a huge reality check, isn't it? Like, unfortunately, no one else is thinking about you as much as you do.
It is. We think everybody is, tuned in to us 100%. And actually, you're not. When you walk around, this is another exercise to kind of just quieten that voice that if you walk to the shops, how many people do you really notice? Can you really describe what they look like or what they did? Or not really, because you're thinking about your own life, you're thinking about your own to-do list or what you got to do at work or whatever. So nobody focuses on you to anywhere near the degree that we do.
Yeah. And if they are, like, so be it. That's fine. They probably notice a lot of things about a lot of people.
Exactly. And it makes no difference to your life whether they go, oh, I don't like her hair or didn't like what she said. Like, everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk a little bit about those who are business owners who are mothers, because I see two things happen when female business owners become mothers, and this is something that I have experienced myself as well. And I know you're a mum of 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the things that I see, and I'd love to hear your take on it because I know you coach a lot of clients in the same position as well. There's 2 kind of opposing forces when people become mothers. One is super positive because we are suddenly so good at prioritizing things, whether that's time or energy or just things that are important. So I feel that a lot of mothers become the type of person who maybe stop caring so much about making every single thing perfect and just getting it out there, because we do have other things going on in life. We don't have all day to re-record our first podcast episode. We just have to get it out, whether it's imperfect or not. So that's kind of like one superpower. But then the other side of it is to do with visibility. I think for mothers, like, a lot of us spend a number of months maybe not working or being in a completely different world, especially those who were business owners then became mothers. You're kind of like thrown in this completely different world. You're just in this baby bubble for however long, and you come back out the other side going, things have changed on social media, or I don't feel like the same person anymore. How can I show up? And I feel not as confident anymore. So is that something that you see with the people you work with as well?
Oh, totally. And in myself. Again,
Yeah.
everything you've just described there. I had my business before I had kids, and I'm not going to say easier. Business was different. I had time to get up in the morning and blow dry my hair and pick out an outfit and put on a full face of makeup and relax into the day. It's totally different now. And like what you say, the only way that I've been able to manage my business, because I had my first son, Samuel, who's just turned 6. And I thought, well, I'll just stop work, because I had this idea that that's what good mums did. They didn't work. So I gave up my business. And then I soon realized that, I loved being a mum, but I missed work and I needed work. I felt like I'd lost an arm. And then I kept putting a toe in the water and going back into work and going, no, I shouldn't do that. And, then the whole mum guilt comes. But then when I realised, actually, I need to go back to work, I was only, I was trying to do it around nap times. And then he went to nursery a couple of mornings a week. And then I had my second son. and there's only 2 years. They're only 2 years apart, so it's been a lot in a short space of time. So even Henry, who's my youngest, he's only at nursery 3 days a week. So that's not a long time, in the grand scheme of things. And it's only school hours. And then you've got school holidays where you just get this massive bunch of weeks where you're like, what do I do now? So the only way I've been able to manage and grow my business is by dropping any idea of being perfect or things being perfect. So that includes me. It includes the way I look. It includes things that
you do look fabulous, though, by the way.
Well, I've been swimming. I'm going to caveat it with I've been swimming. I've got back and I've got that drying, not properly dried hair look. But, again, if you're trying to fit everything in, looking after yourself, looking after your health, getting your business done, being there for picking up the kids, before kids, I would have probably blow dried my hair, put makeup on. When now I'm like, quick dry with a hairdryer, that's going to have to be enough. But the same with my work as well of, videos. I would have pre-recorded them and then I would have edited them. And if they were no good, I'd have re-recorded them. When now I just do a live video. And sometimes I'm walking back from the school run. Sometimes me and Henry spend Fridays together. We go swimming. So I come out and I've got wet hair. And I go, well, just do a video, and I can't worry about the non-important stuff. But, if I'm putting something out there, launching something, I would have never done it until everything was perfect. When now 80% is my new perfect. So if it's all right and it does the job, it goes out. And actually, as weirdly as it sounds, I've made more money by things not being perfect than when they were. So it has made a difference. It's made me more money, and again, I just think it's this superpower of, oh my God, she's normal. And if she can do it with all the stuff she's got to do, then so can I, and I've got a couple of kids and, it's almost like, not that people use it as an excuse, but it's just that subconscious belief that we have that, oh, well, I can't because I've got 2 kids. And that is a story I told myself at first of, I can't possibly grow a business. I've got 2 kids. Well, I can. I just have to do it in a different way. So it's not easier or harder. It's just different.
Yeah, and I guess that's the whole point of this podcast. It's called Unconventional Success because I think there's this idea out there that there's a perfect way to run your business. And if, everyone's selling this, okay, if you follow my 60 billion steps to a T perfectly, then you will create exactly the same results that I did. When in fact, everyone's different. Your values are probably different. Your lifestyle is different. The number of hours you get to work is different. The way you like to speak to people is different. So there's no cookie cutter method that's going to make you the money. You really need to try and figure out what works for you and be, like you said, just learn to be aware of what works for you and what doesn't. And that's how you're going to make more money and more success in your business.
And that's pretty much what my program is I'll say, look, this is just one way of making money. There'll be other people out there who'll tell you to do something completely different. My way is just by going, let's work out who you are, how you like to show up, what it is you're helping people with, how you want to talk about that, and then go out and build relationships based on being you. Show up, be visible, become, call it getting famous, but just be known for who you are and what you do and who you help, and then go out and build relationships. So you don't have to have this fancy 38,000 step process or whatever. It's just, this is me. This is what I can help you with. If you're interested, here's where you sign up. That's as technical as my sales strategy gets. It is just that.
And with the people who've taken your program or who've worked with you, have you had a wide range of, extroversion versus introversion with your clients? Because I guess a lot of the time when we're thinking about being visible and being well known for something, you think of the person you follow on Instagram who's a real extrovert and sounds like they just talk like this all the time.
Yeah.
But do you also work with clients who are a lot more quiet and maybe show up in with quite a different energy?
Yeah, totally. I'd say it's a mixture, but I'd say the majority of people I work with are introverted. And
Interesting.
I think people have this idea about me that I'm this big extrovert, and actually I'm not at all. It's just that I need time on my own for sure. I do get energy from people, but I'm not this really overly confident out there person. I have to work on it. I have to, even coming back to work, after the Christmas break, I was a bit like, oh God, oh, got these offers, and oh, will anybody buy? And I'm not immune to any of that. I always say to my clients, the only difference between you and me right now is that I know how to manage that voice in my head. I know how to
Mm,
manage that self doubt. And there was a time when it managed me and it managed every aspect of my life. But over the years, I've learned actually it's not, we never get this manual of this is how your mind works. And actually, it's designed to work against you because that's how it keeps you alive. And then when you learn, it's not, I mean, it's neuroscience, but it's not complicated stuff. And when you kind of learn it and go, start applying it to your life, you go, oh, I don't have to let this voice manage me anymore. I don't have to let this voice of self doubt. I can manage it. I can work with it. And actually, I can make that scared little voice in my head, believe it or not, my best friend. And I can get it on side, and I can get it to motivate me, and I can get it to push me. And that's the only difference between me and my clients, is that I've worked on that. And
yeah.
when people come through the program, that's what they get. So that's what I say. It's not so much about here's a strategy and you must do this. And yeah, I tell them how to be more visible and how, the things to talk about. But ultimately, if you work on that mindset and you start controlling that voice in your head and you build that self confidence, everything becomes easier.
Mm. I think it was so interesting what you said towards the start of our recording. Because you mentioned that you worked in sales, but for someone else for years and years, and you had all the sales techniques, you've been trained in sales, but when you started your own business, you still found sales difficult because you didn't have the mindset. So what that tells me is that there's actually two things that we need to work on when it comes to sales. One is the sales techniques, which you were lucky enough to already have had. The other is mindset. And that realization only came to me as we were talking just then, that when I started my business, I was battling two things.
Yeah.
I thought that the only thing I was battling was that I didn't know how to sell. But actually, the other huge thing I was battling was that I didn't know how to control my mindset.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And near enough, everybody who works with me comes because they want to be, they want to know how to be more visible, and they want to know how to sell. And I would say we work on the strategy of that for 10%, and then 90% of it is mindset. So I have a like a mastermind where people, once you join, that's it, you're in. So there's a forum where people can keep coming
You're
and asking
trapped there
questions.
forever.
You're trapped. You're not getting out. And the thing that people keep coming back to is the mindset stuff. And even when you work on your mindset, it's not then just done. It's not, I've been working on my mindset for 10 years. And it's not, sometimes I think I feel like I might crush people when I go, it never ends. Like the mindset stuff never ends. You have to keep working on it. And I think people go, oh God, I just want a quick fix. But unfortunately, that's not how our minds work. Because as we grow, the threat level changes and your comfort level changes. So there's always something to, old things that you thought you'd dealt with come back and go, well, what about this? And that causes you doubt. So you're always working on these things. And that's why I say mindset it's like this never ending. Even now, coming back to work in January, like I say, got these doubts, and you had a really good year last year. What if this year's not that good? You get all these doubts, new level, new devil as you move up, these new thoughts and these new beliefs and these new worries come. So you've always got to be working on it. So it's for me, the mindset and the self-belief piece is the absolute crux of everything to work on in your business.
Yeah.
Everything else gets loads easier once you start having those tools to manage that voice in your head.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that the difference is, I think before you start working on your mindset, or before you start developing that self awareness, all you can figure out is whether it makes you feel fearful or not. But I think the only difference is, after a while, yes, you still feel fear. Yes, there's, new level, new devil. There's always new mindset issues to work on. The difference for me is that I think I can tell the difference between different types of fear. So one is red alert, do not go there. That is definitely not for you. Versus that feels really scary. I'm not experiencing that. I've never done that before, but it kind of feels a little bit exhilarating and exciting at the same time. And I think that with all the mindset work and all the self-awareness work that you do, you can start feeling a bit more in tune with the different subtleties of fear that you feel for each new opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, completely. Because I'm like you. Sometimes it's almost like the fear eggs you on a little bit. You're like, yeah, I'm scared, but I'm quite excited to do it, do the things. Like some people who do bungee jumps, I can't think of anything worse. But their fear is like the thing that makes them go up and jump off, because it's that adrenaline rush that they get. So yeah, definitely different feelings for different fears. But I think the more I do the mindset stuff, the smaller that group of stuff gets, that where I'm like, I'm not going to even touch it. I'm not even going to go there. Where before it used to be huge, and I'm like, I wouldn't touch anything. I wouldn't like tackle anything or try anything new. Where now that's kind of small, and a lot of it is more in the excitement camp. But again, that is just because of learning to understand my mind and learning the messages that it's given me. Because unfortunately, I find your mind, it's like your mind speaks Spanish and you speak English. So your mind's trying to tell you a message. Your mind, it's got your best interests at heart. It wants you to, it wants you to stay alive. That's what it wants you to do.
Yeah.
And that's what it's trying to make you do. But it's telling you in Spanish and you don't speak Spanish. So you're going, I don't know what you're trying to tell me. So we just go, well, it must be bad. So we'll not do the thing. And that's not what it means at all. It's just trying to look after you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I want to hear a little bit. I know we're kind of almost up to time, but I would love to hear a bit more about how you decided to start your group program, so your mastermind. So what were you doing before, and how did you come to starting your mastermind? And can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah. Well, I wish it was this really easy straight line that I just went, I'll do this and then I'll do this. And I think my business journey is very similar to most people's journey. It wasn't so obvious what I was wanting to do. So when I first came into like the entrepreneurial world and started my own business, I did what I'd always done in the corporate world, which was recruitment. And I probably should never have set up a recruitment business, because I did well, but it's not what was in my heart. And what I realized was actually that people, I'd been coaching these people for years without realizing, how to get through interviews and nerves and all that. And what I realized was people weren't not doing the thing they wanted to do, like applying for a job, because they weren't good enough. It's because they didn't believe in themselves. So I went down this path of, and for my own benefit as well, of like mindset and why do we not do the things that we do and all that kind of stuff. And I became fascinated by like how your mind works and how it really works against you. And then I started as a coach, as a I did career coaching, but I went on to be like a mindset coach. And I was so fascinated by why your mind stopped you doing stuff. And I was really passionate about helping particularly mums and women thrive, because I'd always worked in quite male dominated environments, and it kind of got on my nerves that like women were held back quite a lot. So that's how I ended up with
Yeah.
like the niche I had. But what I realized was actually what you said is it wasn't the one thing that people were struggling with. So when I was doing the mindset stuff and just helping business owners feel confident about going out there and promoting their offers, they go through my course and they go, yes, brilliant. I feel really confident, but I still don't know how to sell. And I was like, well, I know how to sell. So I was like, well, this is what's missing. It's the two together. Because I thought, well, I could teach them to sell, but they wouldn't have the confidence to then go out and do the videos or, do the talks or be visible. So I put the two together, and it worked really well. And then that's how I came up with the mastermind program. And I used to do a lot of one-to-one work, but then I realized again, if I was going to scale my business as a mum, there was only so many hours in a day, and mine were quite restricted because come the school holidays, I'd have to kind of shut the doors and say no to all these clients. So that's when I went online and did the online mastermind, but it's worked out really, really well. And I think it's better for people because they're in this community and they get all the training and the help, and I'm there, but they also get the other people as well. And I think that's really empowering when somebody will go in the group and they go, I'm having a really bad day and this is happening. And everybody will go, do you know what? I felt like that yesterday, or that was me, or I struggled with that. And then people just come out and they go, oh, phew, I'm normal. And I think that's really empowering for us all, is that it's not just us. It's not just you that's struggling. It's not just you that has these wobbles or doesn't know what they're doing. It's pretty much us all. And we're all winging it. None of us know all the answers. Nobody gets it perfect. And I think when you see other women who are just like you on the same journey, struggling with the same things and progressing, it just gives you that, oh, I can do it as well. So I love it. I love it in there.
Yeah, I think that sense of community is so overlooked, don't you think? I think people are like, oh, well, you're just buying your best friends. Well, yeah, like go and join those communities where it normalizes the challenges that you're facing, and it also normalizes huge success.
Yeah.
Like we were talking earlier about going to this live event for Denise Duffield Thomas, where there were all these women in this room who had made millions and millions of dollars, and it just felt normal. I guess some people might think, oh, well, that's really intimidating. But then also when you hear them talk and they just sound like completely normal people and they've got the same fears and the same challenges, you're like, oh, okay, well,
it really is
normal.
I think exactly, and because I haven't got any role models around me that are business owners who, are turning over £1 million or doing crazy things in their business. So it always felt like, well, that's not for people like me. That's for like those people over there. But when you go to these events and you do buy into these communities, like you say, when Barbara from Barnsley, who on one hand tells you about her 2 kids and how she's drowning in a washing, then goes, actually, my business just turned over 1.3 million. You're like, oh my God, well, if she can do it, she's normal. She's worrying about what she's going to feed the kids tonight. And if she's not done the kids' homework, she's just like me. If she can do that, why can't I? And it is incredibly empowering. And all of a sudden you go, well, I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The power of community is like, honestly, the most untapped mindset and business hack I can think of out there, because you're not just learning from one person, you're learning from the collective, and I think that's super powerful. Amazing. Thank you so much for today. Is there anything that we haven't touched on today that you think would be really important for those listening to know about being visible or showing up?
I think with being visible, you've just got to accept that your first few videos, talks, podcasts, whatever it is you do, you're not going to like. You're going to think they're rubbish. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to like the way you look or the way you sound, or, your kids will run in and mid-video and you'll think it's the end of the world. And actually, it's none of those things. And I always say to people, set yourself a 30-day challenge to go live every day. Doesn't really matter what you talk about. This is about just getting over the fear and making it feel normal. Because it's not normal to turn your computer on and just talk to the internet. You're not even talking to a real person. That's not normal. So we've just got to trick our minds to go, Well, it is normal. And the only way you can do that is by doing it. So I said to people, do a 30-day challenge. That's how I got over my fear. Go live every day. No matter what you talk about, just go on and talk for like 3 minutes. And eventually, after 30 days, you're not going to be like, oh my God, I'm amazing at these and I love them. But you'll be a heck of a lot more confident than you were when you first started.
Yeah, it's like exposure therapy, isn't it?
Yeah. The quickest way.
Amazing.
The quickest way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom on being visible, how to sell more and how to sell with confidence, and all of the mindset tips that you had as well. It's been incredible chatting with you, Helen. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, I'd be so grateful if you could help me spread the word that this podcast is here to help other female solopreneurs just like you. Please give this podcast show a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and subscribe if you'd like to see when future episodes come out. If you have any questions about the topics spoken about today, I'm always happy to answer your questions. Come and find me over on Instagram at @TiffanyDawson_ and shoot me a DM. I'd love to help. Until next time, take care.